Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner. In this video I'm going to be going over the last little bits of details regarding Granblue coming out of the set, as Freedom Duel has his obligatory spoilers revealed before the actual set release, which is in about 3 days as of this recording. And there's some spicy things in here for the deck. Like, truth be told, I think Granblue, with these last couple bits of cards, get pushed up a notch, and they have a really good chance of being tier 1, if not that, then high tier 2. I think the shakeup of the format's going to be interesting because this set release in general is going to knock Royal Paladin and Mega Colony out from tier 1 and down to tier 2. And Dimension Policing Granblue may very well push either Tachi's and Spike's or one or the other down to tier 2 alongside uh, what would be tier two? And I think tier two would be Tachi's, Spikes, and then whichever one is the loser between Granblue and Dimension Police. Both have make good cases for themselves thanks to some of the cards they have in here. This will be like a breakdown of the Granblue stuff though, because we obviously know who's going to break down Dimension Police on YouTube. So let's get into this. So our gift markers as box toppers are Great Dayusha, Maelstrom, and Baskirk. Our SVRs, they look okay. Like, truth be told, Baskirk I feel looks the best out of these bunch. Dayusha looks okay. The problem is like his art is like so like the card is always like so big you don't ever get to see much of the background, whereas Baskirk lets you see a good bulk of the background, and the blue on red works. And then Maelstrom, I get what they're going here. It's supposed to be like him like diving through the water and such, but I don't. I think the green does not work with it. It looks like the background is blending in with his legs. I'm not a big fan. The origin rares is Dayusha and Ruin Shade and Tidal Assault. Ruin Shade looks really good here. It reminds me of the Ruby Labyrinth triple rares out of the set, so that'll be nice. And our secret rare gift markers are Leon, Kote, Nagisa, and Goki. So Granblue gets 2 secret rare gifts out of the set. Okay. I think they'll also be the cheaper ones of the bunch because Leon and Kote are obviously more popular characters. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for that. So let's go over the cards. I'm only going to really talk about the ones that I have not talked at length before. So check out the other video for my initial thoughts. And then I'll give you, like, if I have some follow-up thoughts, I will bring them out here because I've had time to mull over things like Evil Shade and Night Mist. So we'll get into those too. So we have Baskirk here, Ruin Shade. We'll just slowly scroll down. Romario. These are all good. Undead Dragon, this is a 3 to 4 of. There's another grade 3 in the set that's worth talking about, especially given the little hubbub going on regarding his text. Night Mist is a 2 to 3 of. My issue with Night Mist is that you want, if you draw him early game, he really doesn't do much because you need to have a good drop zone setup to get maximum value off of this guy. So you could honestly say that this guy could be a potential brick early game, as just throwing him down as a 9k attacker is kind of weak. So I'd much rather just run him at less copies and see him later and run other cards. And there's a really good grade 2 in here we're talking about. We got a Draw PG, Night Negro Breach. Here we go. Commodore Blue Blood. So this is your other good grade 2. So on Rigard, if you have another copy of him in Drop Zone, he gets plus 4k. So he hits for 13. Awesome number. And his other skill is when he hits a Vanguard, you can retire him to draw 2 and discard 1. So it's free. I mean, sacking himself is a thing, but he advances your drop zone by 2 in this instance. He allows you to get cards that you don't want to see in your hand, such as your Undead Dragon, out of hand. And he gets you 2 cards deep into your deck. So phenomenal card. Like, your opponent will have to either take this and let you advance your game state, or they have to block it, in which case you're eating a shield out of their hand, which helps especially since you're trying to, well, beat them down as the game goes on. Like, this deck, once it gets rolling, is really scary. Let's see, Evil Shade, I'll probably run this at 2, as the option for it has come up every now and then. A thing I've noticed I've been able to do is you can honestly just like call triggers out from drop zone as boosters or attackers if you have nothing else to work with. But obviously if you have 10 plus cards in drop zone, you will have something to work with. But like if you're lacking a booster, you can always like bind a crit and call a crit or something like that. So that's a neat thing. If the next time Granblue gets support, we have things that allow you to sack rear guards to call themselves and drop, this gets better. But yeah, I think Evil Shade like will be your least played grade 1, but you'll still play it because there's not really much else to work with. Retreat Francine is your generic PG. Dancing Cutlass, I'm probably going to bump up to 4. I needed to see it much more than I was in like my little bit of testing. Chapter Ghosty is not amazing. We'll get to you in a moment. Stylish Man Alvaro is okay, and when you place it on Graveyard from drop, it gets plus 10,000 during the turn, that turn only. But I think we have better utility grade 2s. And let's see, Skeleton Bomber is, it's not Cannoneer, and so that's, granted, Cannoneer is an amazing card and it's rightfully gen break restricted. So obviously I can't expect him to bring it back. I was kind of hoping in a sick way. And then, so his actual skill is you have 3 more copies of it in the drop zone. You can call up to 4 of them from drop zone to rear. They get plus 4k and boost until end of turn. Yeah, the fact that you need to have so many in drop zone in order for it to do something is not good. Night Gear is okay, but we have a better grade 1. It's not this guy. This guy's only a 15k shield, 7k base. Those never see play. Our good grade 1, though, that I think we'll probably run at 3 copies of, is Norman the Ghosty. So his skill is retire this unit, mill 2, buff a unit by 10k. A thing I've noticed in play is that this deck is just always a little bit shy of 10 cards in drop zone when you ride the Baskirk. So this guy gets you there. Granted, you end up losing a card and overall going -1 on board presence, but if you're able to get to 10 plus cards in drop zone, then Basker should be able to bring back something. And the fact is, you get to buff something by 10k, and that Basker could already be swinging for like nearly 30k with a crit the moment you play it. So that's a neat thing. Guiding Zombie is our starter. Our crits are Night Spirit. Mortar Mimic. Our generic draw is Steering Pilot Paolo, and our heal is Rick the Ghosty. So, time to go up a little bit because I need to talk about, where is he? Yes, Violence Franger. So, Violence Franger, his skill is Act, Vanguard, once per turn, Soul Blast to grade 3, discard any number of cards from your hand. This gets power plus 5,000 during this turn, and your opponent cannot call Sentinels or cards of the same grade as the cards discarded onto a Guardian Circle from hand. So, the thing about this guy is his translation seems to be a bit on the iffy side. Like, there's a rumor around he's actually Soul Blast 1, discard a grade 3, and this gets power plus 5,000, and until end of turn, when it attacks, your opponent calls Sentinels or cards of the same grade as the cards you discarded from Guard Circle to hand. So, what does this mean? It means that Franger is a potentially unblockable attack if you discard a 0, a 1, and a 2 from hand. Whereas the other translation is if you discard 3 cards, your opponent cannot call grade 3s, and if you discard 2 cards, they cannot call grade 2s. So one translation is clearly a weaker skill than the other one, but it's more fair. Whereas the other translation is, well, stupid, and we do not know which is going to be the accurate one. Kind of have to wait until the actual set drop to get a clear idea. Someone will eventually email Bushiroad regarding this, and when that happens, I'll hopefully be able to update it for you guys. But for the time being, take Violence Franger with a huge grain of salt. But regardless, this looks like he might very well be our last grade 3. Instead of playing Negro Breach, we play 1 to 2 copies of this guy instead. Because regardless of how his skill works out, he's still a very strong card to have. He'll be 17 with a booster, without a booster, and 29 with a Romario behind it. 29 with some form of guard restrict is nothing to laugh at. And if it's the latter version, the one where he's literally unguardable, then that might actually put this deck over the edge regarding which is better between Granblue and DP, and will firmly make this grade 1, this tier 1, as really, if it's the much more powerful version, then only really Protect clans can stand up to this guy. And wouldn't you know, Granblue and Oracle Think Tank are Protect. So, oh boy, Bushiroad. Hopefully we'll know the answer to this one very soon. And yeah, so that aside though, I'm overall pretty pleased with how they did with Granblue in this set. Like, going into this, I was very afraid that because this is not Aquaforce and Dimensional Piece, this was going to get the shaft, but turns out they actually decided to put effort into designing Granblue, and the result is we have a very solid deck. Like, if this is not tier 1, this is going to be very high tier 2, but I honestly think this could perform in tier 1 because it's a good Protect clan as opposed to Mega Colony, and much like Spike Brothers, it's a deck that just keeps beating you down with big numbers and like threatening attacks like Baskirk every turn is nothing to sneeze at, especially if you're calling Undead Dragon or the Franger. The Franger, you can't really use that repeatedly because you don't re-ride that often with this deck, but it's still a nice option to have. And yeah, you've got draw power in the form of Blue Blood. Ruined Shade and Blue Blood can hit for numbers. Night Mist is able to call anything the later the game goes on. You've got, what is it? You got countercharging. Yeah, like this deck is a nice toolbox, and it's really neat to see Granblue go back to the style because it wasn't really a bad playstyle before. It's just that back in the day, Granblue was underpowered and overcosted for what it did, whereas this time around, they're not that. Like, it's very reminiscent of how Seven Seas, the Break Ride deck, played out in the beginning of G Granblue's time. Obviously, that deck had more multi-attack, but you kind of get the same point, like Night Mist toolboxing into more toolboxing, and it was a very fun deck to play. So I'm really excited to be playing around with V Granblue again, and we get these guys at the end of August. So yeah, it's only a matter of time, and yeah, I don't know if I'll build premium Granblue though, as we don't really play that format around here very much, and I'm not really that motivated to build very many premium decks. But it is an option because I still have all my Night Rose cards, and I'm very curious to see how some of these cards play with the Night Rose deck. But that's all for now, though. Comment down below on your thoughts regarding Granblue, and yeah. Hopefully, we will get an update to Violence Franger and what his skill is actually supposed to be. Until then, though, that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, this is BlueStar899, jacking out.